everybody. You know what today is? It is the second Tuesday of November, which in the United States, that means it's voting day. And I really hope that all of my viewers, if you are 18 years or older, that you really exercise your right to vote. I just parked at my particular polling place, which is our local elementary school. So I haven't actually done the voting yet. I'm going to try to get some footage, but I'm not 100% sure I'm going to be able to, and that's fine. As a teacher, as a public servant, I tend to vote mostly blue, but I don't vote completely blue. I do I am an independent thinker, but I tend to vote more towards the Democrat than the Republican, though I do vote Republican sometimes. In case you're a new voter and you don't know what the blue and the red mean, blue means Democrat and red means Republican, and our little spirit animals. Democrat's animal is the donkey, I guess because they're stubborn. I'm not 100% sure. I have to look that up. And the Republican's animal is the elephant. I'm guessing because they never forget, but again, I'll have to look that up and see what that means. But that's my guess. We'll see what happens. Very important to take advantage of your right to vote. People, died in order for you to have your right to vote. People fought for women like me to be able to have the right to vote, and people of color, people fought in the civil rights movement to be able to vote. So please, please, please don't take that right for granted at all. There are parts of the world where your voice doesn't matter. And I've actually been in one of those parts of the world where I was mouthing off about some sort of politician, and I was pulled aside by my friend, and they're like, stop talking like that, because you can just be pulled right off the street, or because I'm with you and I'm a citizen of this country, I can be pulled right off the street and put in jail. So I was shocked to hear that. Because in our country, we have freedom of speech, and if I don't like something that's going on, I can just say it, and you can't do that everywhere. So if you live in this country, please exercise your right to vote. All right, I'm going to go in. It's kind of a cold, dreary November day, and decent number of cars so far. It's early in the morning at 7, and in my state, kids get the day off from school, mostly because I think the voting is done in our school, so it'll be a huge distraction. So yeah, it's a bit of a walk. I'm not on it. There it is. I am not sure I'm allowed to take my phone in here, but we're here. What's that? I voted. I didn't want to bring in my camera because I didn't think it would be allowed, and I certainly wouldn't want to get in trouble for that. So, but I voted. I did not fall straight one party or the other. Remember, I am an independent thinker, but I did do it. You should do it. Lines weren't long. It's easy. It's important. So I voted. It's really important. In case you've never voted before, you're a new voter. In addition to voting for, these are the midterm elections. We weren't voting for president or anything like that. We were voting for a governor. We voted for our local and state representatives. Some of them, senators, have 6-year terms, so you kind of vote for half of them in off years. So I voted for one of our senators. In addition to voting for people, though, we also have ballot questions, and every state has different ballot questions. This year on our ballot was a question about nursing ratios. It was called Question 1, and it was really hotly debated. So that will be decided today. Question 2 was whether or not we should form a committee to basically look into the hella ton of money that we dump into our politics. The big group that does that is called Citizens United. So this was a question to say, do we want to put a committee together to try to look into whether, our Massachusetts version of Citizen United should be looked at. So that was a question 2 ballot. And then our question 3 ballot was whether or not we want to keep the law that would allow transgender people to use the bathroom that they identify with, which was voted into law in 2016, and there's an initiative to repeal that law. So those were the 3 ballot questions that were on this year's midterm. And if you're watching from another state, your state had different ballot questions, but sometimes people don't realize, well, when you go vote, you're not just voting for people to represent you in the different layers of government. You also end up helping to change laws. So your vote counts. And as soon as you're able to register to vote, please register to vote. All right, now I have to go to work. Good morning. It's the day after the election, and I remember on Tuesday I was saying I would look up for you guys why red states are red and why blue states are blue. And I actually, or why they use red and blue for Democrats and Republicans. And it was actually kind of interesting when I did that research, because what I found was it's been traditional to use red and blue because they're contrasting colors to denote a liberal versus a conservative state or party leaning, just because red and blue are contrasting. But what I thought was interesting was up until the year 2000, there wasn't really a specification as to Democrats are blue and Republicans are red. It was just to kind of show a contrast. But in 2000, Tim Russert started using the color maps, I guess, and the red and the blue stuck. So the colors, red and blue, are because they're contrasting colors. But Democrats being always blue and Republicans being always red didn't actually become a big thing until the 2000 presidential race, which I just thought that was kind of cool. So I need to now explain why donkeys are associated with Democrats and why elephants are associated with Republicans. That's something I always kind of wondered too. I thought it was because donkeys are stubborn and elephants never forget, but I was wrong about that. The donkey symbol for Democrats came before the Republican symbol for elephants. And you have to remember, back in the 1800s, what we now associate as democratic ideas, being kind of progressive and more liberal, were actually Republican ideas back then. Like Lincoln was certainly a progressive, but he belonged to the Republican Party. And Democrats were more associated with the conservative ways. So in 1828, Andrew Jackson was running on the Democratic ticket, and he was described as being a jackass. And so he kind of took that and ran with it. And that is how the donkey got associated with being a democratic little spirit animal. There was a political cartoonist named Thomas Nast who started using the donkey symbol to represent Democrats back then. It was also Thomas Nast who started using the elephant symbol for the Republicans, and it was because elephants were considered to be more dignified and refined. So compared to the kind of crazy, stubborn donkey stereotype for the Democrats at the time, the elephant was considered a dignified, more refined animal. And it was again Thomas Nast, who was a political cartoonist, who started using that symbol for the Republicans. But again, remember, back then, the ideals for Republicans versus Democrat were switched. They were donkeys were considered. I mean, the Democrats were considered to be, the South, kind of stubborn, didn't want to change their ways, and the Republicans were more the party of the people, which now it's kind of switched over a little bit.